Hey guys, welcome back. I know it's been quite a while. I've been taking a bit of time off from the game. We just had a big conflict with Snuff and NSH and a little bit of fraternity on the side, and that kind of concluded. And it coincided with a bunch of us wanting to take a break since we got vaccinated. So I've been taking a break from doing videos for a little bit and I've but I never planned on going away permanently or anything like that. So just happy to be back. Happy to take another pretty good fight. What's going on in this fight is this is over a structure timer, and then at the time we assumed that everyone here would be working together. There's about 50 of us in fleet. We have about 30 Serbs, 6 scimitars, command destroyers for links, a couple painting hyenas, and then Hugin webs and a latch for our setup. And then all the other hostile fleets, it was kind of a weird mix match. We saw TD Sin in a Kikimora fleet, which didn't participate too much, and then we had a combined Manifesto with some other of their friends Tornado fleet, kind of like Windrunners, which just prior to this recording we were able to snipe about 8 or 9 of them. That includes some Nagas they had with them as well. And then after local spiked with NSH, in consideration to the structure having tackle, we couldn't really stay on grid, just due to the number of fleets and the fact that they could just point and web someone and then have the fleet warp in. It's very difficult to have a kitey fleet with like such as Serbs on one of those structures. So, but at the end of the day, I was really here for a fight. That's what I wanted to do. So that's what we went for. And my idea is if there's going to be any opportunities with these guys being split up with the NATOs and the Serbs, then as soon as one of them isolates, we just go at them. So what happened here is we get an on-grid clicky warp in that I warped to at 100, and this got us fighting at about 120, about 130 kilometers from them at the beginning. And the reason why this is critical is that if I'm able to burn directly away from these guys, then these guys, some of their missiles will not finish their flight time. So if they approach me, and I'm running from them, they're running into my missiles while I'm running away from theirs. In addition, if you just go on Zkill and look at Alliance's loss board, then you are gonna find out other people's fits. Based on our fit, ours are both faster, and our missiles go further based on the differences of the fit. However, theirs have more HP. So that's kind of the main differences between these Serbs and ours. They had it's this is gonna be an approximate, but I think NSH they had around 37, 38 Serbs, double Arlaji, which is around 10 or 11, and then they had a lot of webbing shit. I think it was a combination of like 3 or 4 Hugins and like 3 rapiers, a couple latches thrown in there too, claymores for links. And that was likely inexperience on our part, not using claymores. I've never actually taken this matchup before. I've never really FC'd Serbs much, if at all, with any kind of sort of competitiveness to it. You know, it's different when you're just orbiting a fleet that can't shoot you at like 130. That's not real, you know, real experience. So this is the first time I'm actually used to trading a little bit in this kind of setting. So we're gonna let the video go. And one thing I do want to highlight, in prior videos we've really talked about movements. I'm like spurging out a little bit. I hope that's not offensive to anyone with some of my clicking, but Q clicking like this is exactly how you want to be moving your fleet. So we're actually going to stop right here. So these guys are going down this line. We're now going along one of this line. I like to imagine this blue circle as like a clock. So if we, this is 6 o'clock, this is 12 o'clock. So now if we want to pull in, we want to be going around 10 or 11 o'clock if we want to get closer to them. If we want to maintain the current distance, then generally you want to be around an 8 or a 9 o'clock position, which is about a 90-degree side angle. And if you want to pull range, then you want to be around more of a 6 o'clock. So in this specific case, our Serbs are much faster than theirs. We're going about 2400. They're being capped around 1800 because they decided to anchor on a monitor without snakes or implants or quafe or anything like that. So even though their Serb fit moves at around 2200, they're capped at around 1800 because they want to be anchored on a monitor. So if the NSHFC happens to read this, you need to snake, or you need to swap to like a Loki, probably, or maybe a Claymore, but the Claymore would struggle with agility being the anchor, so probably a Loki. Would not recommend a monitor. We're outside their missile flight time. This is kind of a mistake of my part here with all the just this excess clicking. But my thought right now on the target calling is we are very much so outnumbered on support. They have double our Logi and they have double our webs. But the one thing we do have for us is that we have painting hyenas. Hyenas have a double range over a target painting Hugin or rapiers, so we get to apply our damage pretty amazingly, even out to like 150, because the hyenas EAF 5 or electronic attack frigate 5 with info will get you around 150 kilometers on a Tech 2 paint. So my thought is let's just keep running. We're gonna load Color and EV Scourge and just frag all the support, because all of the support has a kinetic hull. Just in case someone's new and doesn't know this, Serbs only have a bonus to kinetic missiles. You can load off missiles, but if you want to shoot Serbs, it's like 85 to 90% kinetic with an ADC, so it's like almost impossible to kill. Watch them for me. Let me know as soon as they change directions.
On it.
Are they still just approaching us?
They're just trying to ram effectively right now.
Fire and Thomas, guys. Fire and Thomas. Fire and Thomas.
They're changing directions. They're changing directions.
I want to pause right here. Do you see? I'm gonna. Oh man, I'm gonna try and see if I can get a pause on this moment right here. Are they still just approaching us?
They're just trying to ram effectively right now.
Fire and Thomas, guys. Fire and Thomas. Fire and Thomas.
They're changing directions. They're changing directions.
See, so as soon as he calls a change in a direction, I immediately go to a 9 o'clock on a clock, or a 90-degree angle. And the reason why is that is for maintaining the current distance around your target. So if you, while maintaining your full speed, that's the whole concept behind all of this, is that it allows you to manage your speed without dropping. Because if you just go forward because you want to go in and then you want to all of a sudden pull range, you lose all of your speed by having to stop and turn around. But by going this kind of orbit, a manual orbit, you don't lose any of your speed while still maintaining the same distance from your target. Additionally, my concern right now is that my buddy Alex has now told me that they're turning around towards like maybe the gate, or just not towards us anymore. Well, this means that due to the lag in heavy missile flight time, even though my Serbs shoot to about 170 with, I would say, about a 10% variance to that, due to the server ticks and how sometimes it's about 10 kilometers, some plus or minus on the maximum distance that they will go, just based on the Eve server ticks and how Eve calculates missiles. But now, because they're kind of going in a little bit through this way, what I'm reporting, I'm now going in like this. Because, and this will allow me to do is, it's going to give me a little bit more control on managing distance from them. Also, another thing when it comes to this sort of clock mindset is that you only stick on one side of the clock. You never go over here and then over here, then over here, because then you're going to end up cutting your speed. Simply just like that idea where I said if you go forwards and then you want to go backwards, well, then you lose all your speed. Wait, towards the gate? Fire and Thomas? Fire and Thomas?
Towards the sun. They're going towards the sun.
Alright.
Okay, now they're coming back to us.
So as soon as I hear I'm gonna stop pausing, or else this is gonna be an hour-long video, and I gotta get better at that. Heat MWDs, 2 cycles. So I hear that they're basically diving on us, so I'm like, okay, we need to burn range. The overheat of micro warp drives is a little aggressive and not necessary. But right now, about half of their missiles are not even hitting us. These guys in the back are definitely not. Their missiles go to about 140 kilometers, so this means about half of their missiles right now aren't even hitting us. So even though we have under half their Logi, have worse links and have less Serbs in them, even though with all those things combined, just with an understanding of how the mechanics work, you can still take some fights. And now my big concern right now is this malediction here. Is he can be used as a warp at range to get close to us. And really, when you're fighting in this kind of case, when they have all of the advantages basically, other than speed and range, then we need to abuse their speed and range as much as we can. And if they're able to get close to us, then we're just going to lose. Priority malediction. Everyone, priority malediction.
We can't let them warp in.
He's webbed.
One other thing is that because this might have seemed like a bit of an aggressive pull over into here. However, these guys are aligning to this guy, so if he, as in the hostile FC, warps at range to like right over in here, notice how that is in line with this.
Mass red box height.
But I have a feeling that they're just not going to be able to do it. I think they're too close to this malediction, so they can't even try that. So now it's more about let's just try and get range on them.
Small local spike.
You hear a local spike, I'm not really sure what it is. I don't really care what it is. I thought the rapiers would be a little bit easier to hit, but I think some people might be shooting the frigate with their missiles. That slasher that was kind of close to us. Also, you can see with my movements, I was a little concerned about the total distance we are from them, so I was like, let's pull in a little bit, but I did kind of spaz out a little. Notice the turn in, so then you need to go around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or what's going to happen is that if you just dive straight, then what's going to happen is you're going to get slingshotted. So by that, I mean they're going to pull backwards, they're going to wait until we go fully going towards them in a 12 o'clock position, and then they're going to turn around, and then they're going to be basically, both our fleets are going to be approaching each other at that point, and then I'm going to lose speed trying to turn, while they're full speed going right in on us. However, you get to manage your distance and speed by going to the 9 o'clock position, or 3 if you want to burn right.
They're turning again.
Although I always go left. I don't know. I don't really know why.
Drones in, guys. Drones in.
So we see, I'm pretty sure that tab I just saw, that was for Sino recons, not for Hugens. But now we're going to see some of our missiles are out of range. NATOs are warping at a ping. Red cycle, guys, red cycle. Reload. Everyone reload. Everyone reload. Everyone reload. I know this is kind of suck for. That was really surprising to me. That's the thing with Serbs, is that they'll surprise you sometimes. You'll just get kills that you don't even.
Malediction getting in front of us.
Let's talk about that for just a brief second. I called, let's shoot a rapier, then I was like, I changed my mind. We just switched off him. He's going to be locked by the 9 scimitars that are still there. We might be able to get him, but there's going to be other easier targets. So that's my thought.
NATO's behind us.
Yeah, we're good. The NATO FC, I think he might not have had probes. He never really got close enough to us.
NATO's just warped.
Then there's an additional tornado fleet. I don't. They were a little disorganized, a little bit. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but they were.
Okay, manifesto.
I don't have any of my probes fucking set up. MWD's off. Yeah, so to give a little more context, I'm not gonna pause. I gotta stop myself from pausing all the time. Is that I didn't even have a second to set up my probes. So my thought is, it's gonna take too long for us to be able to get my probes in position, and we're gonna be vulnerable a little bit to a warp in by NSH by just hanging out. So I was like, no, we gotta move. We can't just hang out. So I'm gonna skip ahead. Yeah, nice. All right. So we're not moving.
Still have a little bit of time.
All right, I'm gonna take a little bit of a risk.
That guy's going to Laram.
One guy's still.
Yeah. Be overheat.
Okay, we're gonna. For your service. All right, so this is just warping my scanner position.
Yeah, my slasher was the only kill that
I don't entirely remember when the next part of the fight
I think
happens.
Val's been taken over by an alien. He's Protoss now.
I hate Protoss. Protoss are scum.
By other tackle, but none of them tackled me.
So the Serbs and the NATOs are all back on the same grid. Now, we heard some things after the fight that the NATOs may have been third party. I don't want to get political. I'm not so sure I believe it, but that's okay. But from my perspective, for this point of the fight, I'm assuming that they're all friendly. So when you see a fleet, they say you're the scout, and you see a fleet warp off to a safe. If your fleet's in a safe, then you need, just as a helpful reminder, if you are a scout, to communicate that. This is my own tune. Guys, take this warp, So I'm assuming they're actually just warping to us, basically at 0. In retrospect, this looks like kind of a scary warp-in that I just did, to be 90 kilometers off of tornadoes, because that's just a great range to be blapping from. But I was like, I'm probably gonna move. So now, just like before, what I was saying is that as soon as a fleet gets isolated, then we need to really be aggressive on it and take whatever opportunities that are there. Even though it seems what I'm hearing is that they were not working together, but at the time this is the information we had. Have some risk in our lives. Approach tornadoes, guys. Approach tornadoes. Approach tornadoes. Also, whenever we're fighting windrunners, you have to be aggressive. If you're not aggressive and you're warping, then they're just gonna warp on you. And then when you're in this kind of like a bit of a high risk setting, where if a hostile fleet lands on kind of you, then you're boned. Then you kind of need to tell people to either align, have an escape route, kind of get ready to go. And we're gonna see what happens when you fail to do so. Do you have any frigates still alive?
Looks like we have a Mollis with the fleet.
So
Malediction.
this is where I mess up a little bit. So my prober was in a separate part of the like they weren't on top of me, so these distances don't look the same. I forgot that we had a Lynx Bifrost, and there was a hostile Bifrost I wanted us to warp to just to see if we get a kill.
With you as well.
And I warp us to our own Bifrost. Tackle this Bifrost when you guys land. Notice how this is following Scannerino, Cappuccino, and Warp. So if you initiate a fleet warp while the person giving the fleet warp is in range to warp, as in greater than 152 kilometers, or whichever it happens to be, then everyone will still get the message that they're following in a warp, even if they're 5,000 meters from you. So here I am, like, being like, what is this?
No. Nope.
Yeah, everybody's like, no, we gonna warp. So I'm like, okay, I'll just cycle my probes. My thought was, oh, maybe it's like a desync, because there are bugs. So it's like, try it again. That warp?
Yep.
Everybody says they got it because they get the message.
I love it.
Fuck?
Yeah,
Are
I'm
you
getting
ship
the
close?
message.
Is your ship?
And then, and it's just get a warp in on us at 0. So, or at 0, I mean, it's 30. So, the reason why I warped us off here is the fact that they still have more Serbs than us, more Logi, better links, more webs. All of that means I can't really take a fight at 0, or we're gonna be at a pretty big disadvantage. So it does end up getting, I think, one person caught.
Most of us did.
I'm dead.
Go links down.
Yeah, we got one person who was pointed. If this is further amplified in nullsec when there's dictors and hectors.
Please.
That was fucking weird, dude.
Yeah, that was, I don't understand it either. I was giving a warp to a Bifrost that was 250 from everyone.
Anchor up, guys.
Fucking NATOs are back, man. This is brutal.
Decent.
Yeah. So this is me thinking, they're just in position to work with each other. So this is what I mean. They're warping to a safe.
User was moved to your channel.
I guess take warp. MDB's off. So this is me assuming that they're likely in warp to us. So I'm like, let's just get back on grid. I'm not too concerned about even where we necessarily land. These tornadoes haven't really actually touched us pretty much at all for the purpose of this fight. So I'm thinking if we each warp at 100, we'll be far enough away, and maybe we can warp on them. Even though a tornado fleet coming out of, or us warping into a Windrunner fleet, they should always be able to get into warp to us first. But I was feeling it. I was like, let's just do it. Broadcast anything you can kill. When warping against Windrunner tornadoes, maybe I should explain what Windrunners are for a second. It's just high agility, no tank tornadoes with 1400 artilleries, no prop mods. You just land somewhere, shoot something, align, and then that's your tank. Or sometimes you don't even align. Sometimes you just hang out and do a fleet warp, so you all go at the same time. MDB's on, everyone. Microchive's on.
3 versus 1.
Point echo.
So this is a bit of a mistake by me right now. I'm not necessarily aligning to anything in case the Serbs go on me. Thanks for asking. Take warp, guys. Take warp. So So this is pretty bad. The NATO's warping in on us. The Serbs are about to come in. My thought was I didn't really want to leave the grid, so I was like, let's just warp to where the tornadoes were previously. And then, pretty much worst case scenario is NSH lands on us pretty much at 0, and their pieces are able to snag a few. This is what happens when you aren't
Oof. Smooth.
sticking to what you're aligning to. I think pretty good. Align to them, guys. Align to them. Align to them. Align to them. However, it almost works out really well in our favor.
What the fuck?
Another thing, just real quick to mention, when you're two things. When you're in a situation where you have two fleets like this kind of next to each other, these people are in the middle. So if I do a warp at say 50 from these people are 220 from me. The Serbs are 300 from me. That means if I do, that's about like a 70-kilometer difference. 70 plus 50, 120. That means if I warp at 50 on these NATOs, I will land 120 from these Serbs. That's what matters. Tornadoes, yeah, likely they'll be able to get a nab on someone until we get our transversal up. We're probably going to lose one. However, they're only going to shoot once, and we're going to get exactly where we need to be to farm kills, just like we were doing in the first part of the video. However, I grossly miscalculate just how close we would land from the Serbs. And another thing that was an issue is that they started MWDing directly towards us, pretty much right as I initiate, which means that they have their speed up before we do, which means they're able to close a lot more distance. However, if this was a warp at 50, I think this could have actually been a very winnable fight should the NSH FC want to just hang out and continue to fight. But think of that. Just to prove the math earlier, I said warp at 10. Another 40 kilometers to get us to 50. Put us around 115, 120 kilometers. So my thought is, all right, we need to heat MWDs, and we're just going to start. My thought now, too, is I just want to kill DPS. We need to quell damage because we're going to be within range for quite a while. Second after that is this. I didn't notice that I was webbed. Web this monitor, please. Web the monitor if you can. Red cycle. Swap anchor. I forgot to have my secondary guy on my watch list. Swap anchor to Alex. But just broadly speaking, if you're able to alpha DPS ships, just shoot DPS ships. Now, if someone's trying to run from you and you want expensive kills, yeah, sure. But if you're able to do alpha through DPS ships, then you just need to be shooting DPS.
Are we still eating?
Unheat. Yes, I tried. Watch this. That was hard. He wasn't the secondary anchor. I was secondary Kanan. I lost a bit of my focus on this one.
Yes, I'm with
Swap to Val for anchor. And then, look at. Hang on, I'm gonna back up 10 seconds. Look at my speed. This is pretty atrocious.
Yes, I'm with
Swap to Val for anchor. Because like now I go down to like 500 ms, and it didn't really slow anyone else down. I just need to be straight lining away from them. However, they did manage to kill skirmish links, which is a bit unfortunate. Secondaries is rapier. I don't know how I feel about the rapier call. Like, I'm pretty understanding that I'm not gonna pause. That removing webs is important, but you have to reload this off EM because you can't shoot into 90% EM resistance. And then everyone's also gonna have their rapier pre-locked from their side, so it's kind of a really hard kill even after reloading. But it's like, we still have over 30 serves, so we might be able to do it. When this rapier dies, you're going to load.
Webs off me.
Yep.
-1 skimmy.
I think we're good. I think we're out of range. Just heat on this guy. All right, now everyone reload. Calderi needs. I don't think it was worth it to do that. Anchor back on Val. MWD's on. When you've had Calderi, Navy. Also because we lost skirmish links. You notice at the bottom it's about running out on the cycle, or links Bifrost went down. Maybe a minute or two ago. So this means we're now slower than their Serbs. we're
Shit,
bleeding
so I have
Logi,
30
but
subs.
I was like, we're still killing the Serbs. Let's just stay.
31 Serbs now.
So I was asking for someone just to figure out how many Serbs we had versus how many they had. I think we're still under them at total Serbs. We're doing good, guys. We're doing good. And I mean, if we're still able to get a bunch of kills, depending on what we're in, I'm mostly fine staying. NATOs are back within range of us. So I was like, we need to get transversal, which is why I pulled towards more of like a 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock type position.
Hugan down.
Secondary after this, broadcast Matthew. Secondary Matthew. Oh, I just got his
Take it out
ABC
of
off.
You got 2 left.
Go.
Yeah, we're gonna stay.
Jarek matchboxed.
I could have actually switched off actually at that beforehand. Because as soon as his ADC ends, he'll just get blapped. So that was actually a bit of an optimization error on my part. Could have switched off a little bit earlier. Let's just shoot. Secondary Serb. Fire Justinian. At this point, we're basically out of Logi.
If you're not pointed, warp off.
Yeah, that's gonna be the play. Alright guys, I'm gonna keep us aligned to this broadcast. That's gonna be what we're gonna be aligned. So if you're notice you're getting fucked on, just ADC and warp to that. Secondary broadcast, Robin. Secondary Robin. Find out how many Serbs are on both sides, please. Fire and Robin now. Fire and Robin. You know, even with EM, you see, still did 800 a shot with an unbonused heavy missile. That's pretty. That's a lot of damage. I wonder if he had his EM partner off.
54 total, 31 on our side.
Oh no, it's Lords of Claymore. Ignore Lord. Lock and fire and Ashley. Yeah, if we actually try to shoot, Claymores have such an absurd EM resistance in the modern day Eve. It's like it's got to be above like 90. So trying to shoot that with a Serb would be pretty impossible.
Disconnected from your channel.
I was a little surprised at the little progress we actually made on the Serb broadcast. Maybe we probably still would have killed. I'm guessing we lost our Lachesis, which is why he was able to warp. Remember, if you're getting fucked on, or if you notice like mass attack on you, just warp to the broadcast. The differences here is they went for our support and I just went for their Serbs. We probably have more Serbs than them at this point. But losing skirmish is kind of a big deal with the way our fitting is. They had 2 buffer rigs and we didn't have any buffer rigs, so at this point it kind of means that when both sides are able to hit each other, their Serbs outperform ours. So which means it's kind of even pretty suboptimal for me to even be fighting at these ranges, but I was feeling it. Sometimes you can do that. Fire and Master. And just before the end of this fight, you guys take this warp. And someone called that they fleet warped. Oh, I thought someone said they were warping, and then I got confused. Someone said they were fleet warping. So my thought was, let's get out of range of the tornadoes, and then just regroup at a ping. And then it turns out it was just like one guy who warped, and then I got scrammed by O'Malley just as everybody was leaving. So that's pretty much the end of the fight. That was a lot of fun. I definitely feel that even though we were outnumbered on DPS, they had better links, they had better Logi, and that there was a tornado and a Kiki fleet involved in all of this, I still feel this could have been a winnable fight. It would have been very difficult, but if we're able to get the right warp-ins, you can kind of see that their Logi advantages wasn't really that big of a deal. Half of their Serbs weren't really able to hit us, so
It was 50 off.
in the start, so it wasn't even that big of a deal.
Warping their NATOs to kill
Yeah,
them.
wait, I didn't notice this before. I was definitely getting
It
repped
was 50 off.
by some NSH civvies. Hang on, we're gonna pause. We're gonna give a shout out. Amus, brother. Or Amos? Emus? I'm normally pretty good with pronunciation, but I am sorry. But you know what? Thank you for the reps. I'm sure it meant absolutely nothing, but I want you to know I feel it, so thank you.
They're warping their NATOs to kill me looting.
Okay.
Instead of
Not
you
relevant.
guys.
No.
So yeah, if so, the short version of that is I think if we manage our positioning a little bit better, if I actually managed to over 50 on the NATOs instead of 10, then we likely could have, I think actually won this fight because and then the idea from there would just be trying two-shot semis with Scourge, faction Scourge, and then once they're out of semis, then you just work through Serbs with Caldari Navy Milliner. And then one other thing too, that it's kind of unfortunate, but you kind of have to just make that split decision on what kind of ranges you need to do. Because if that other Serb initiates and gets into warp before I do, and we're not having a really good alignment on something, then what's going to happen is that they're going to get this closer fight that more benefits them. By closer, I mean distance. So in that case, I was like, I have to warp, and I have to do it quick, and I have to make a judgment call, just in the moment. Because if you're slow on that warp, and they get to you first, then you get to see exactly what just happened. And is that even though we were dispositive in this fight, the battle report I'll leave in the description, we still would have been able to win as long as I get the positioning really good. I still feel pretty good about that with the speed and range of our Serbs in comparison to theirs. So we can call it here. Let me just say, I know it's been 10 years since the last video, but I'm still going to be making these. I hope you guys also got to see and appreciate a little bit on how the clock positioning you should be doing this, in my opinion, for every single missile-based fleet, unless you're like some like rattlesnakes or like ravens just sitting on a fax or something. But for any like jackdaws, caracals, Serbs, Osprey navies, MWD Tengus to an extent, this is how you want to be moving your fleet. Now, I was a little spaghetti, and I was just like kind of click, 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 a little bit too much. I think I was watching too much Chesser or something, but that's the idea of how you need to be moving your fleet. And if you're not doing it like that, then likely you're doing it suboptimally. But let's call it there. Let me say good fight to everybody who came, and I will see you guys on the next video. Have a good day, guys.